Finance, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of our colleagues here present, Senators and Vice Chair Villanueva, Minority Leader Drilon, Vice Chair Senator Bongo, Vice Chair Senator Amy Marcos are with us. And I think the order, Senator Joel said he will wait to ask questions till later, is our Marcos, Go, and Drilon. So that's the order. And we'd like to greet also our the head of our agency for today, which is the Department of Finance and other attached agencies. Good morning, Secretary Dominguez. Before we turn it over to you for your presentation and your briefing, we'd like to ask the committee secretariat to acknowledge the other important ladies and gentlemen here present, the heads of the various agencies. Comsec, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. I would like to acknowledge our resource person from the Department of Finance and its attached agencies, Secretary Carlos Dominguez, Commissioner Ray Leonardo Guerrero, Bureau of Customs, EVP Alan V. Bornas of Land Bank of the Philippines, Commissioner Cesar Dulay, BIR, EVP Elvira Resares of Social Security System, Deputy Commissioner Erickson Balmes, Insurance Commission, Senior Vice President Sandra Diaz, Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, OIC Executive Director Marlene Lucero Calubag of National Tax Research Center, and National Treasurer Rosalia V. De Leon of Bureau of Treasury. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'd like to greet our bureau chiefs, Commissioner Guerrero, Commissioner Dulay, also our national treasurer and the other officials mentioned, and our SEC Chair Aquino also. At sa lahat po ng dumalo, thank you. Secretary Sani, you have the floor, sir, for any briefing that you might want to present. We'd like to acknowledge, also Senator Nancy Binay. She just showed up on the screen. Good morning, ma'am. Go ahead, sir. I think you're on mute, sir.
Thank you very much, Senator Angara. Senator Sani Angara, Chairperson of the Committee on Finance, members of the Senate, fellow workers in government, good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to brief the Senate on the proposed 2021 budget for the Department of Finance. The DOF performs multiple roles, essential to efficient governance and the sustained inclusive growth of our economy. Our main job is to ensure that the government is adequately funded so that it can perform its functions effectively. We make sure that the priority programs and investments of the President are matched with robust and sustainable funding streams. Over the past 4 years, the DOF has pushed for the modernization of our tax policies. We negotiated international funding for our Build, Build, Build infrastructure program. We mustered public support for building national resilience. 2019 was a year of exceptional achievement for the DOF. Through bold reforms in tax policy and administration, we were able to bring up our revenue effort to 16.1% of GDP last year from 15.1% in 2015. This is our best performance in more than 2 decades. In the same year, dividend collections from government-owned and controlled corporations reached a record high figure of 69.2 billion pesos. This is 35% higher than the 2018 level and more than double the 2015 level. For the first 8 months of this year alone, dividend contributions already reached an unprecedented amount of 128 billion pesos. This is more than a 3-fold increase from the dividend remittances collected in 2015. This spectacular trend stems from DOF and the government corporate sector's commitment to contribute to the COVID-19 pandemic relief effort. To further improve our revenue collection efficiency, the DOF pursued more game-changing reforms in our tax policy and administration. We thank the Senate for passing two successive laws increasing excise taxes on tobacco, alcohol, and e-cigarettes to fund our universal health care program. We are the only administration in Philippine history to have increased sin taxes 3 times in the last 4 years. In addition, the Senate passed into law the amnesty on real estate taxes and delinquencies. Errant taxpayers now have the opportunity to feasibly settle their outstanding tax liabilities and unlock the value of their properties. In 2019, marked more aggressive tax enforcement campaigns. We led a sustained drive to crack down on POGOs and their service providers that evade proper taxation. We managed to collect a total of 6.42 billion pesos in taxes from these errant POGOs in 2019, a 169% increase from the preceding year. Our revenue-generating agencies continue to put on the fast lane the digital transformation of their offices to make tax compliance more convenient and accessible to all. Under the Duterte administration, the Bureau of Internal Revenue introduced additional electronic channels for the filing and payment of taxes. In 2019, total revenues collected through digital channels reached 1.83 trillion pesos, representing 84% of the total BIR collections last year. This amount is 11% higher than the 2018 level and 54% more than in 2015. By 2019, there were already more electronic filers at 58% of all taxpayers versus 25% in 2015. This is targeted to increase in the coming years as the BIR fully digitizes its operations. The Bureau of Customs, for their part, continued to improve its delivery of services by streamlining its operations and modernizing its infrastructure. We are the only administration to implement a full-fledged fuel marking program nationwide to curb oil smuggling. As of September 17 of this year, a total of 12.7 billion liters of fuel have been marked, generating 132.6 billion pesos in taxes and duties. These reforms, along with our prudent fiscal management policies, sustained the strong performance of the economy in 2019. Last year, we managed to bring down our debt to GDP ratio to a historic low of 39.6% from 42.7% in 2015. The Philippines also has the lowest external debt position among the ASEAN 5 countries. In 2019, we posted a 20.2% external debt to gross national income ratio of 22.7% in 2015. With the prudent management of our fiscal affairs, the Philippines earned the highest investment grade credit rating ever at BBB+. The tight spreads of our offshore bond issuances also underlined investor confidence in the way the Duterte administration has soundly managed the country's fiscal program. In 2019, we secured even more concessional financing agreements with our development partners to support several big-ticket infrastructure projects. Our strong fiscal position gave us the headroom to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. The DOF has led the economic team in its response to the socio-economic impact of the global health crisis. We quickly put together a 4-pillar socio-economic strategy with a combined value of at least 2.06 trillion pesos, or 11% of our GDP. Together with the Social Security System and the BIR, we rolled out a 46 billion peso small business wage subsidy program for over 3 million workers affected by the lockdown. The program was successfully implemented through the digitalization of the entire process, from application to distribution of wage subsidies. The DOF has also collaborated with Congress in crafting fiscally responsible economic stimulus packages. The Bayanihan 1 and 2 were designed with the fiscal prudence to ensure that we do not run short of resources in what could be a long battle against the pandemic. Our efforts are guided by nationwide surveys of businesses and individuals and active shareholder engagement. More importantly, the DOF has ensured that we have sufficient funds to fight the pandemic and meet the challenge of recovery. With our historically high credit ratings, we quickly accessed emergency financing from our development partners and the commercial markets at very low rates, tight spreads, and longer repayment periods. To date, the DOF has secured financing to support 9.9 billion US dollars. These borrowings will help cover our revenue shortfall resulting from the slowdown of economic activity due to the lockdowns. In the first 8 months of this year, our total revenue collection reached 1.9 trillion pesos. This is 8% lower than the same period last year. 86% of the revenues came from tax collections, which registered a negative growth of 12%. We are optimistic that tax collections will improve in the coming months as we gradually reopen the economy. We will continue to work with the Congress on our economic priority bills to help us bounce back quickly from this crisis in a sustainable and resilient manner. President Duterte has made it clear that he needs the timely passage of CREATE, FIST, and GUIDE as part of the government's economic recovery plan. The swift passage of the 2021 national budget is also crucial. It will provide us with the tools necessary to rebuild our economy and decisively defeat COVID-19. Before I present our proposed budget, let me first brief you on the spending performance of the DOF. In 2019, the DOF's approved budget under the general appropriations amounted to 18.89 billion pesos. The department-wide obligations amounted to 15.37 billion pesos or 92% of the total allotment of 16.71 billion pesos. Disbursement, meanwhile, amounted to 13.84 billion pesos or 90% of the total obligations for the year. For this year, our approved budget is 18.55 billion pesos under general appropriations. The additional appropriations of 35 billion pesos is a net effect of the Bayanihan grant to local government units and the DOF's compliance with the Department of the Budget and Management's belt-tightening measures under Circular Number 580. The circular aims to provide readily available funds for the government's COVID-19 response efforts. As of the end of June of this year, the department-wide obligations amounted to 43.52 billion pesos or 84% of the total allotment of 51.54 billion pesos. Disbursements, meanwhile, amounted to 41.86 billion pesos or 96% of the total obligations for the year. Let me now brief you on the DOF's proposed 2021 budget. The department's proposed budget for next year totals 18.28 billion pesos. This includes automatic unprogrammed and new general appropriations as well as budgetary support to the GOCCs. The automatic appropriations amounts to 1.46 billion pesos. These are composed of the retirement and life insurance premium and special accounts in the general fund. The unprogrammed appropriations amounting to 210 million pesos is for the refund of the service development fee for the government's Nampidai property in Japan. A total of 595 million pesos is allocated for the budgetary support to GOCCs. This includes an equity infusion to the Philippine Guarantee Corporation amounting to 500 million pesos. The remaining 95 million pesos is for the implementation of the Specialized Tax Training and Education Management Program of the Philippine Tax Academy. Under the Duterte administration, the DOF budget has steadily decreased while the department continued to collect unprecedented amounts of revenues and effectively fulfilled its mandate in prudently managing state finances. The proposed 2021 budget under the new general appropriations amounts to 16.01 billion pesos. This is 13.7% or 2.54 billion pesos lower than the 2020 approved budget. This is much lower by 15% than the 2019 level, 17% versus the 2018 level, and 25% compared to the 2017 approved budget. The agencies with the biggest budget decrease for this year are the Bureau of Treasury and the Insurance Commission. The BIR, meanwhile, will have the biggest budget increase, and it continues to have the largest budget allocation among DOF-attached agencies. I will now proceed to a more detailed presentation per agency. We have allocated 9.93 billion pesos for the BIR next year to further improve its tax administration and enforcement capabilities and digital infrastructure. The proposed budget is 16.6% more than the 2020 level. The 18% rise in personal services is due to an increase in filled-up positions from 11,529 in 2020 to 12,449 in 2021. Meanwhile, the 23% growth in MOOE, or maintenance and other operating expenses, is credited to the sustainability of BIR's information and communications technology programs. The Bureau of Customs will have the second highest increase in the proposed budget with an allocation of 2.58 billion pesos. This is 5% higher than the 2020 approved budget. The 4% growth in personal services is due to additional filled-up positions for 2,700 from 2,733 in 2020 to 2,892 in 2021. The 29% increase in MOOE reflects the 187.6 million peso requirement for office productivity as recommended by the Medium-Term Information and Communications Technology, our harmonization initiative. The Bureau of Treasury, meanwhile, has an allocation of 2.16 billion pesos. This is 55% lower than the 2020 budget. The proposed budget reflects a 3% decrease in personnel services due to the retirement of some employees. Thus, the number of filled-up positions was reduced from 676 in 2020 to 638 in 2021. The 78% drop in MOOE is due to the non-provision of government assets insurance amounting to 1.9 billion pesos. The said allocation was already provided for in the 2020 budget. Meanwhile, the 61% drop in capital outlays is mainly due to the reduced requirement for International Commitment Fund investment. The proposed budget of the Office of the Secretary is 832.64 million pesos. This is 0.5% lower than the 2020 budget. The 8% increase in personnel services reflects a growth in filled-up positions from 484 in 2020 to 488 in 2021. There is also a provision for retirement benefits for 4 mandatory retirees in the department. The 7% decrease in MOOE is mainly due to the reduction in the recommended operational requirements of the department. The 31% drop in capital outlays is all accounted to the decrease in the budget of the medium-term information and communications technology harmonization initiative projects. The remaining 5 attached agencies have a total proposed budget of 507.13 million pesos or 3.2% of the total DOF budget. The DOF strives to be the exemplar of prudence and fiscal discipline. Our fiscal objectives closely mirror the administration's priority programs, especially the infrastructure, modernization, and other public investments intended to improve the lives of our people. We look forward to your approval of this budget submission. We are also committed to working closely with you on the government's recovery measures so that these can be enacted in a timely, decisive, and responsible manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Dominguez. And now, before we turn it over to our colleagues for their questions, again, each one has 10 minutes, excluding the time for the answer. We'd like to ask the Secretary and or anyone on his team if they are supportive of this bill in the House to extend the estate tax amnesty. And if they are, would it be prudent to include the tax, the delinquencies portion of the amnesty bill?
We're not in favor of it, but may I ask Undersecretary Tonationgco to elaborate? She is right here.
Okay. Yeah, Yusek Tionko, please.
Yes, in general, what we would have preferred is for the amnesty law, as it was already passed, to play it out first, rather than having the deadline coming up maybe next year, still next year, and then you already extended. So I think the timing is more the issue than whether or
Okay.
not to extend.
So not in principle opposed. It's just really the timing.
Yeah.
So they would pay. At least they would pay now, no, before the deadline.
Yeah, it's just prolonging it. But then
Yeah.
if you
Okay.
would have collected already.
I got it. Thanks, Yusek. Okay, the order of questioning again is Senators Marcos, Go, Drilon, and Binay. So we'll turn it over to Vice Chair Amy Marcos, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The DOF, the BIR, and the SSS directly implemented the Small Business Wage Subsidy Program this year to great success and gratitude from the beneficiaries. Is the DOF open to extending this program once again in 2021, perhaps?
At the moment, ma'am, the DOF has no budget, has not planned any budget for that. However, if the need arises in the future and we can manage it under our general fiscal deficit, we certainly will be open to doing this program again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, looking at the presentation, the DOF has secured financing from development partners for the COVID-19 response, some already earmarked for specific projects. This is a request for information if we could get a list of the projects financed by said partners, please. Mr. Chairman, if it could be submitted to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Vice Chairman, we will submit that list in the next few days.
Thank you very much. And also,
Thank you.
Also, in your presentation for the 2020 budget, the DOF issued 2 big batches of bonds. We hear of the Euro bond offering and the Republic of the Philippines ROP bond. Can we get a list of the total bond offerings in their native currency as well as their peso equivalents? in the nominal rate so we can have a general idea of how much the Philippines generated from the same?
Yes, ma'am. We will provide that list as well in the next few days.
Thank you very much. The BIR is present. May I ask the BIR Commissioner?
Yeah, Commissioner Dula is here.
Naimbang kabigat ako. During the hearing of the ARTA, the Ease of Doing Business, Commissioner Dulay, the BIR was cited as being the top-notch violator and of the ease of doing business. Is that true? Because that is what they claim. The most complaints were against the BIR. We look forward to your digitization, but at the same time, we are worried that it'll take time to address this constant complaint.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
We asked ARTA to clarify the figures that they presented. Actually, the complaints were more around 197, and I don't have the figures now, but we have given our report to the Secretary of Finance, and they admitted that a lot of those were not referred to BIR because ARTA had no jurisdiction on those complaints. I have some figures here. The complaints referred to BIR is 167. It was endorsed, 37 of which were endorsed, and we sent notice to explain 5 and acknowledge 719. That is from ARTA. So the actual figure is the status of complaints, active 31. The agency has resolved 187 and 719 of which were not sent to the agency for action. That's the total of 937 reported by ARTA.
We heard the secretary mention the digitization of the process, and we look forward to its enforcement and use. When do you think we'll be seeing changes in the entire system? Matagal pa ba to?
It is an ongoing process, Madam. In fact, the Secretary has given instructions way back in 2019 to embark in a digital transformation program for the Bureau.
When do you see it complete? When do you see it completed? If it was started in 2019?
Where it's over a period of time, we hope to complete by 2030 or something.
Ang tagal naman po
Because-
ng digitization.
Kasi marami pong kanyan, marami po tayong aspects of the program. Some we can achieve it by 2022 or even next year. In fact, some we have implemented already, and these are ongoing programs in cooperation with USAID, with other financing companies like Asian Development Bank, and we
Mr.
have
Chair?
been.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner and Mr. Chair, may we request an executive brief on the digitization process because the timeline of 2030 is quite alarming given the number of complaints and issues surrounding the BIR. Thank you po. If you could just submit kahit konti lang kasi nakaka-nervyos, baka naman may deliverables tayo before 2030 para matuwa naman ng taong bayan sa BIR. BLGF po, nandyan ba?
May I make a statement first about the complaints?
Yes.
First of all, it's not strange that people will complain about the BIR.
Of
Because
course.
the BIR's essential function is to collect taxes.
Siyempre.
So, People, I think, are very hesitant to part with their money. And BIR sometimes has to, yeah, and some of the complaints may not be valid at all. But, let me put it this way. I mean, if somebody is your bill collector, I don't think he's the most popular in your household. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Siyempre, kanya-kanyang papel sa buhay yan. At ang tanging papel ng BIR, kontrabida. So, eto nga. So, yung BLGF, nandyan po.
Good morning, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair. Good morning,
Yes.
Madam.
The budget of BLGF, sapat na ba ito para ma-implement yung local government reform project na inaasam-asam ng ating mga LGU? How can the Senate assist the BLGF to improve the revenue-raising capacity of LGUs? Yun lang yung tanong namin kasi yung BLGF parating bone of contention yan sa mga LGU. At mukhang walang masyadong pagbabago sa budget ninyo eh.
Madam Secretary, Mr. Chair, good morning po. The budget for the BLGF has actually increased with the 82 million counterpart for a project under the local governance reform program. It is going to be implemented, Madam Chair, for 4 years. So we are this 82 million is only for year 1 for 2021, and subsequently in 2022 up to 2024 there are other budgetary support under the LGRP. We are also being supported, Madam Chair, by the Asian Development Bank in a number of reforms to support our local government units in their revenue generation and resource mobilization program.
Yes, thank you. If we could get some information, Mr. Chair, and I think I have a request for information also for Phil Guarantee, if there's a representative, Apo Chair. Is there someone from Phil Guarantee simply to request a report, briefer on the status of the Bayanihan funds extended to Phil Guarantee?
Yeah, I think President Pascual is here with us.
Okay.
President Pascual. He was mentioned. Comsec, andito ba si President Alberto Pascual? Is he with us? I see his name listed in the guest list. Oh.
That's right. Ayun. Ayan.
Yeah, I see his name there.
Yes, President Pascual, if we may get a
Wait,
status.
with your indulgence, may we request our resource persons to turn on their cameras when they are speaking? That is the request of some of our colleagues. So we would know who we are addressing. Could you turn on your cameras, please, when you are answering a question from our members, please? Comsec, please remind our resource persons. We've mentioned that several times in the past.
President Pascual.
Yes, I'm trying to connect to show my video, but I think there's a technical problem.
Yeah, in the meantime, you can answer, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
It's merely a request for the status of the Bayanihan funds extended to Phil Guarantee. Ano po ang nangyari sa Bayanihan 1 and well, parating na lang yung Bayanihan 2.
Ma'am, as of now, we haven't received the 5 billion yet of the that was allocated to Phil Guarantee. So,
Yung Bayanihan 1, wala kayong na-receive?
wala. We didn't have any allocation from the
It's
Bayanihan
only in
1.
Bayanihan 2.
We use
So,
our internal capital.
I see. So, sa Bayanihan 2, nothing received yet.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that clarification. And one last final query from SEC, please. Thank you very much, President Pascual. In that case,
Thank you, ma'am.
it is not necessary. Unless you can give us some kind of an outlook on the internally generated funds that you used for Bayanihan 1.
Yeah, we can give a report, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chair, if that could be requested. Yung SEC, nandito po ba?
Yes, certainly. I think I saw the name of SEC Commissioner or Chairperson Aquino on the list also. But I don't see his name here. Comsec, andito ba si SEC Chair Aquino?
Wala pa, sir. Wala pa po, sir.
But he's
Anybody from
listed
the
in the
SEC?
list.
Sorry.
Nandito siya sa listahan nyo na pinadala nyo sa amin.
Pero sir, hindi pa po siya nakalagin, sir.
Well, I think Vice Chair Amy Marcos wants to ask him something. Could you please try to get in touch with him and we'll allow the question a bit later on with your indulgence, Vice Chair Amy. We'll get back to you once he
Thank you
logs
very
in.
much. Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and that will be all.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair Amy. I would now like to acknowledge or to recognize Vice Chair Senator Bongo for his questions. Sir, you have the floor, sir.
A short manifestation lang po. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I express my full support to the Department of Finance headed by a very capable financial manager in Secretary Carlos Sani Dominguez. As the Philippines reels from the devastating effects of the pandemic, not just on public health, but also on our economy and financial stability. It is important that the country's finances are managed properly and efficiently. I am sure that our country's financial policies are in very capable hands. I am positive that we will see this crisis through and emerge stronger than ever. I thank the good secretary and all the hardworking men and women of the Department of Finance and its agencies for their diligence and perseverance in keeping the country afloat in the financial sense. Let us work together to strive for the betterment of our beloved country. However, let me also reiterate a warning to the corrupt in the BOC and the BIR. Your days are numbered. The public will exact accountability and you will have your day of reckoning. Alam ko pong hindi papayag si Commissioner Dulay and si Commissioner Guerrero na may mga corrupt na lulusot dyan sa inyong mga ahensya. And of course, si Secretary Sani Dominguez. Galit rin yan sa mga corrupt. We will not let you tarnish the laudable efforts of the good people in your agencies. Sa mga corrupt, ingat kayo. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Senator Bongo, and we share the sentiments of regarding the many achievements of the DOF and the other agencies. Now we'll give the floor to the Minority Leader, Senator Frank Drilon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, let me extend my congratulations to the Secretary for managing our country's finances well in the face of all of these challenges that we face today because of COVID-19. So having said that, Mr. Chairman, may we know from the Secretary how much was the originally projected tax revenue for this year before the COVID? At the start of the year, how much was it? How much was tax revenue set by the DBCC, just for the record?
First of all, Mr. Chairman, Senator Guo, and Senator Drilon, thank you very much for your appreciation of the work of the team of the DOF and the economic managers. Certainly, all the heavy lifting is done by undersecretaries, the heads of attached agencies, assistant secretaries. Thank you. I'm getting the exact amount, Senator Drilon, but let me tell you, we are around 25% below our collection now is around 25% below the original target. May I have the number? The original target of the DBCC was revenues of wait. The total tax revenues were 3.424 billion, trillion pesos. That was our target for this year. And we are, for the BIR and BOC, we are 24.29% below that original target.
All right. So I assume, Mr. Chair, that the DBCC has revised these original targets because these are no longer realistic given the pandemic, which was not foreseen at the start of the year. You said the collection for this year so far is 24%, almost 25% lower than the projection. But for the record, how much is the revised program tax revenue for 2020 with the pandemic?
Tax revenue was revised. The latest revision was done on July 23rd, and we are above that estimate as of the end of August 31st. We are above it by 8%.
Yes, all right. We do appreciate that, but how much is the revised tax revenue due to the
Yeah.
pandemic?
For
Sorry,
the year, the revised tax revenue is for this year, the revised tax revenue is around 2.2 trillion pesos.
2.2 trillion pesos. So roughly one is that 1.2 trillion lower than the original program. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
1.2 trillion. And we're saying that the actual collection as of August 30 is 8% higher than the revised projection after the pandemic.
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you have, could you spread into the record, Mr. Secretary, what is your expectation by the year end? Are we going to meet the 2.2 trillion, exceed it, or what?
Yes, we will.
We will exceed it.
We will. But, Senator Drilon, please remember that if there's anything that this COVID-19 did, it is to inject a large amount of uncertainty. But I believe that the new revised targets will be met by the end of this year.
Yes, we can appreciate the difficulty given the situation we are in. We can appreciate the difficulty of the good secretary in making the projections. So we expect to meet the 2.2 trillion as a tax revenue. What I'm leading to, Mr. Chair, is the push for the Create Bill, which is now in our calendar and in fact is scheduled for debates this afternoon and in the next several days. There is a reduction of the corporate income taxes by 5% effective July 1, 2020. Can you confirm that, sir?
So that's confirmed,
Yes.
Your Honor.
Yes, and how much will be the foregone revenues in 2020?
The
As a result
total
of Create.
revenues for 2020, foregone for the Create,
Yes,
around
yes, as a
40
result of
billion.
it. Sorry,
Around 40 billion pesos.
40 billion for 2020 alone, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
And for next year,
For the next 5 years, around 650 billion.
from 2021 and 5 years thereafter,
Yes, around 650 billion.
excluding the 400 this year, sir.
Including the 40.
Including, okay, so total from 2020 up to and 5 years hence is roughly 650.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's quite a figure, Mr. Secretary, but it's a judgment call that you are making. But is there any plan down the road as to how to mitigate these foregone revenues?
Well, first of all, Your Honor, the proposal to reduce the tax bill is really a part of our stimulus program to stimulate the economy. And really, this is trusting the private sector by to make the right decisions with that money, trusting them to retain their employees, reinvest in their companies, and essentially it's stimulative of the economy. Many countries have passed that. The second reason for the reduction in corporate income tax rates is that we have the highest corporate income tax rates in the ASEAN at 30%. The average is actually around 22.5%. So we would like to approach that and reach up to actually around 20% in tax rate over time. But let's bring it down first by a hefty 5 percentage points. So to by doing that, we hope and we believe that the economy will be stimulated and additional investments will actually generate more taxes in the long run. Again, and it will also make us more attractive for foreign investment. So that is part of the recovery plan for the taxes. And the other part is that I think sometime in the late 2021 or early 2022, we will start looking at additional revenues to pay for the heavy indebtedness that we are incurring this year. As you know, Mr. Senator, in the past, let's say in the 1960s and 1970s, when when a country had a drop in revenues due to a depression or recession, the immediate reaction of governments was what was known as austerity programs. I believe you remember that, okay? Tightening your belt. However, we have chosen not to do that because we believe that tightening your belt will actually make the situation worse. So we have said that we will continue our budget spending as a part of stimulating the economy and use our good credit rating to fund that essentially that stimulus. So by keeping the budgets in a normal situation, in normal spending, actually is a stimulus rather than contraction. So we are effectively uh, counter counter spending or the effects of the economy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I hope you do not mistake me as opposing the great.
No, no, of course not.
We support the reduction in the corporate income tax because indeed, as you correctly said, we have the highest in ASEAN at 30%. But I suppose that was necessitated by the difficulty in our revenue stream in the previous years. And therefore, we got to that level. But we, are, we have expressed little confidence in our being able to recover. And as you have mentioned, this is part of the stimulus program. We noticed, however, in yesterday's hearing on the DSWD, the Secretary of DSWD said they have not spent 10 billion out of what was given to them. And this is certainly contrary to your policy, to which I agree with, that to stimulate the economy, we must spend money. particularly government, as long within the bounds that we have set. But we to have appropriated so much in Bayanihan 1 and release the amounts to the DSWD, and yet this is not actually disbursed. And it's a running your stated policy is not being implemented properly, and I'm afraid that if this practice will go on of not spending the amount released, not appropriated, released to the agency. I'm afraid that your policy of budget spending will not bear the fruit that you are looking at.
Thank you for that. I was quite surprised myself, Your Honor, and we'll certainly take it up with the Budget Secretary and the DBCC. Because, under these circumstances, I will emphasize to them that we cannot save our way through prosperity. We have to spend our way to prosperity.
In fact, Mr. Chair, just as a comment, there is a great debate going on where we should have the emphasis on the demand or on the supply side, and that is a matter which Finance Secretary, I assume, is very conscious of. But even if but certainly, even if there is a tilt in favor of the supply side, when you do not release 10 billion, that makes the demand side worse. Would you agree, Mr. Secretary?
Absolutely, Your Honor. And that's why we will take it up right away with the DBCC on what's holding up this spending. Well, since you brought up the issue of the supply and demand side, this COVID crisis actually hit both sides. It dropped people's incomes and they cannot spend. It also reduced the supplies. Like for instance, in transportation, with the necessity for social distancing, you have less supply of transportation. With more social distancing, you have less seats in restaurants, etc. So this is really a very, very difficult problem. And the real solution, I think, is to give people the confidence that things will be better, and that the dangers of getting infection are low, and that the chances of recovery are very high, so that they will begin spending. In fact, there was an article today in Bloomberg that said in Indonesia they are getting hit by a real serious drop in demand, because people much rather save whatever money they have rather than spend it because of uncertainties of their future income flows. So it's now really a psychological problem that we have to address, Your Honor.
Yes, I fully agree with the Secretary that confidence is the key. If the people see that if the immediate future is clouded, I can assure you, no matter what you do, people will not go out and buy, but and therefore stimulate the economy. But again, I keep on going back because I really could not understand. We need confidence, and yet if you do not get the money to the consumer, you whatever little confidence is left will be lessened, because kung wala silang pera, wala naman kahit by tiwala, if they have no money in their pockets because we did not release 10 billion, then you cannot build the confidence. But I agree with you, Mr. Secretary. Confidence is key, and I keep on repeat, and I have emphasized it. Unfortunately, in our view, and you may not agree with it, the health protocols, etc., have not really engendered that kind of a confidence that could help our economic side, our demand side. The conflicting statements, and the inability to arrest the inability to arrest the pandemic more clearly. And when we compare ourselves to our neighboring countries, particularly Vietnam and Taiwan, Taiwan, we know that they have arrested the pandemic more, and this has contributed to the difficulty in attaining that confidence that you have pointed out, Mr. Secretary, in terms of our economic recovery, and this has affected the confidence of the people in spending, which in turn reduces the stimulants that you need to perk up the economy, Mr. Secretary.
Sorry, Mr. Senator, let me just add some information. You know, when you're talking of 10 billion pesos, of course, that's a very large amount. But as a percentage of the total amount that had been released, I would say the total amount the SWD released was around 200 billion pesos. So 10% is 5% of that. If
Yeah.
you include the additional 40 billion that was released also through the SSS and BIR, so 10 divided by 250 is really 4% only of the
Yeah.
of
On a
the, of
macro
the
basis,
total
on a
amount.
macro
So,
basis, that's correct. On a macro basis, I agree
yes,
with you.
correct.
But when you talk about the millions of families who was expecting this, then you will appreciate that they will not really, they will just look at it from from their own short term and not and that confidence is not there when you see the multitudes of poor people who were not benefited. Anyway, let's go to another topic, just a few other items. I noticed that in your presentation, you said you realized the 6.4 billion in POGO revenues in 2019. As you are aware, in Bayanihan 2, Mr. Secretary,
Yes.
in an effort to help the government and assist the government in generating more revenues, we have revised the basis of the franchise fee from 5% of net winnings to 5% of gross bets
Yes.
because of the cheating that has happened in the system of net winnings. So may we know by how much would you expect the revenues from POGO increase if you can effectively administer the new system that we incorporated in Bayanihan 2?
We are at the moment making the estimate, but let me just point out, Your Honor, that last night I got a call from one of the owners of a building in Makati who's saying that his POGO and service provider clients have started canceling their lease contracts for lack of business. I think the Chinese government is clamping down on money transfers, as well as lack of operators, because I think the Chinese government has also started canceling passports of those people servicing the POGO industry. So we are at the moment doing our due diligence and making the estimates. So I don't have that number immediately, but I can provide it to you as soon as it's available, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Let us leave it at that. Just one more issue. I note that the PMO is under your office, and for the record, I have worked well with the PMO as an office. I have worked with them closely. They are all professionals. They are able, and I had a very good experience with them when we privatized the old airport in Iloilo, generated so much money, which we use now to build the new airport theoretically. But as just for the record, I have always admired or commended the PMO for its competence. The issue that confronted us yesterday or in the past few days is on the issue of the COCO fund, which we are now debating upon. And one of the issues that I raised is why the PMO is not being utilized in terms of the agency in charge of the privatization or the disposition of the assets under the coconut levy fund. Uh, and uh, uh, the sponsor, Senator Villar, conceded it a bit, but nevertheless included the other agencies like the SSS, the GSIS, because of the assertion that these GFIs are better equipped to dispose of the shares of stock. I I know. I understand this is with your concurrence, Mr. Secretary. I have.
Yeah,
I don't agree, but that is what is presented by the sponsor. Can we have your comment on this?
Your Honor, the PMO, thank you for your commendation of the PMO, and let me confirm that they have, in fact, done a very good job in the past and continue to do so at the present. However, the PMO's expertise is not in the disposition of shares of stock. They are more
Asset.
adept at disposing physical assets like land and mines and such. But when it comes to shares of stock, they are not that knowledgeable. However, since SSS, GSIS, and the GFIs actually trade on shares of stock more actively, since that's part of their mandate, we decided to ask them to ask Senator Villar to include them in the disposition entity, particularly for shares of stock. But physical assets, the PMO is very, very capable, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Just one final comment, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman. Your budget is 16.01 billion for the entire department. Just a comment, that is even lower than the anti-insurgency fund that is placed in the budget of over 19 billion. So with that comment, have no problem with your budget, and we will join the committee chair in endorsing this to plenary. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Thank you, Minority Leader Drilon, and we thank you. We note in the past you've been supportive of the reform measures of the department, especially with revenues. Before we go to Senator Binay, I think SEC Chair Aquino is now online for your question, Vice Chair Marcos. But just one short point, Mr. Secretary, Secretary Sani, and since a lot of the agencies are here, we passed Bayanihan 2, and we put there that it's immediately effective even without the IRR. But I think some of the stakeholders are waiting for the notices or the orders of that it's already in force. Although IRR is not the implementing rules are no longer needed for effectivity. They need to. I think they're waiting. So I think BSP has issued an order, and perhaps the others, like the Insurance Commission, could issue a compliance order. That would be a great help to some of our borrowers and affected stakeholders, Mr. Secretary. I hope maybe we could remind them or inform them to issue this order, sir.
Thank you very much, Senator Angara. Just for your information, our team actually drafted up the entire IRR and submitted it the day after the day after the law was finally passed. So it's up, it's in Malacanang right now, and I will ask them to move ahead very quickly. Thank you.
Fantastic. That's great news, Secretary. That's much appreciated. Thank you. That's advanced work. So tama si President Duterte, you were always the best student up to now. Vice Chair Marcos, go ahead. Then Senator Binay after you for after your question to the SEC. Vice Chair Aimee.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Sunny. The SEC chairperson, Mr. Aquino, is here, and I'd just like to inquire, one of the important provisions under the revised corporation code that was signed in early February of 2019 indicated that SEC would now become fiscally independent. Will the collection of the SEC in these difficult times be enough to finance its operations? Sa palagay ninyo, may timelines po ba tayo dyan? May fearless forecast?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. For 2020, so far we're doing well. We can get by with our present collections. For 2021 po, we are also okay. In fact, we did not request for budget for 2021. There's sufficient amount. So far, the targets that we had placed for 2021, we're short by 10 million as of August, but we can still it's always been a cycle po na towards the fourth quarter medyo tumataas din po yung yung ating collections, but because normally in anticipation, although we're happy to note that during the last 2 months or so, other than April and May, tumataas na din po yung ating mga incorporation needs ng ating mga kababayan. That's why we're still okay po as far as our budget is concerned.
Thank you very much. That's a real relief to hear. Kasi one of the hotly contested provisions yon, and I'm happy to hear that it's actually working. Congratulations. Thank you very much for making it in these
Salamat.
difficult times. Yun lang po, Chairman Sunny.
Thank you, Vice Chair Aimee. Salamat, Chairperson Aquino. Salamat ho. Senator
Thank you,
Binay,
Chair.
you have the floor for your questions. You have 10 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be very brief. Can I just get siguro, Mr. Chair, for submission na lang, updated list of foreign assisted projects and yung ODA din.
Yeah, we'll ask that from the good secretary.
Thank you. We will provide that also within the next few days.
Okay, and then Mr. Chair, maybe can we just get a short update dun sa implementation ng mga foreign funded projects?
Yes, ma'am. We will do that. We will have to do that together with the NEDA because they are really the ones who monitor those. But we will get the NEDA's report and submit it to you, ma'am.
Okay. Yun lang po. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that was very, very quick indeed, Senator Nancy. Actually, there's no one else. So does anyone else want to ask questions of the secretary? Of course, we'll remind our resource persons. I'd just like to mention, if there are other questions, I heard that, Secretary, is it true that the BOC is now implementing the EVRIS? This is the computerization. You mentioned earlier there was a greater move to digitalize. So I heard that there is some move in the BOC to implement finally the customs modernization. Is that true, sir?
Yes, of course. It is their project, but maybe Commissioner Guerrero can give us an update. He has more details than I do right now.
Yeah, because that would be a great step, no, to minimize human intervention and, of course, possible graft and corruption. Commissioner Guerrero, good morning, sir. Would you like to give us any updates on that?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Senators. As a way of a background, the current electronic value reference information system was developed after the initial launching of the National Value Verification System was undertaken last year. So the purpose of this system is to have an automated and computerized database of all existing values of commodities so that our examiners and appraisers will have a quick reference, a database from which or from where to refer existing values of commodities for them to be able to have an accurate and correct assessment of the goods, the different commodities arriving at their ports. The current EVRIS is an improvement of the NVVS because it was developed following standards and procedures that are compliant with the World Trade Organization. We hired an expert to help us design and develop the system so that issues that hounded the old NVVS will be resolved, and so that all doubts regarding its integrity, its accuracy, and reliability will be erased. Right now, we are already implementing the EVRIS in all our ports, and we are using this to make sure that we are not only able to correct the rightful and lawful taxes, but also we have transparency in our transactions, especially at the ports, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I
Mr.
hope
Chair.
that
Mr.
you
Chair.
push through. You continue with that. And okay, who was calling my attention?
Mr.
I
Chair.
think was it both of you? Who was
Yeah.
first? Yeah. Senator Nancy, sige, kasi you have 10 minutes pa naman eh. Oh.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sobrang maiksi lang since natawag mo yung Bureau of Customs. During I think this last weekend, nagkalat ho sa Facebook itong mga isang katutak na supercars. I'm just wondering kung namomonitor ba to ng BOC and if they paid the right taxes for all those supercars. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Guerrero, you care to say anything about that? The supercars?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, Madam Senator. Let me just assure our senators that all of these importations of cars are being properly monitored and that the lawful and rightful taxes are collected on them.
Yung audio ni
Can
Commissioner,
you hear me
your
now?
audio is choppy. Yeah. Commissioner, could you repeat your statement, sir?
Yes, sir. Is my audio okay, sir? Madam Senator, can you hear me?
Better, a little bit better.
Let me just assure the honorable
Yes, go
senators that all of this importation of cars, especially luxury vehicles, are being properly monitored and assessed by the Bureau of Customs. And those that are found to be deficient or to have violated customs rules and regulations are being seized, confiscated, and will be disposed of in due time.
Siguro, Mr. Chair, Mr. Guerrero, how much have we collected?
Sorry, ma'am.
How much have we collected sa mga luxury cars?
It depends on the model and the brand, ma'am, but I do not have the figures right now, but I am ready to provide you with the figures as soon as possible.
Sige po, Mr. Chair, for submission na lang.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Please submit along with the other information requested by Senator Binay. Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Marcos, I think you wanted to ask something.
Yes.
Vice Chair Amy?
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you
go
very
ahead. You have
much,
the
Chair Sani. To our Customs Commissioner, unang-una, mukhang nawala yata si Customs Commissioner. Andyan pa kayo?
Yeah, I think he's still online. He's still online. Oh.
General Jagger,
Commissioner?
andyan pa kayo?
Commissioner Ray, yeah.
Yes,
May
sir.
tanong po sa inyo si Senator Marcos.
Ayan. Okay, so Commissioner Jagger, bago ang lahat, gusto ko magpasalamat sa quick response ninyo sa aking suggestion na yung mga impounded laptops, cellphones, and other electronic equipment be distributed to the kids during these difficult times of the pandemic and the new remote learning system. Kailan po natin ma-i-inventaryo lahat yan?
We have already completed yung inventory, ma'am, and let me just correct the impression that there are 30 tons of gadgets that are for donation. Yung 30 tons
kasi na-report yun noong Agosto eh.
Yes, ma'am. The 30 tons was the report based on data last year and the previous years. For this year, ma'am, when we conducted our inventory. Hello? Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Commissioner. Go ahead.
For this year, we conducted an inventory of all these gadgets, And there were gadgets reported in the ports of Naiya and Clark. And right now, we're just processing the deeds of donation so that this can be donated to the proper agency. Of course, subject to clearances provided by the regulatory agencies that cover these gadgets, ma'am. Aside from gadgets, we will also be donating other school supplies to the DepEd and to the other agencies, ma'am.
Vice Chair Amy, are you satisfied with the response? It's a very good suggestion on your part. We commend you for that. Vice Chair Amy?
Yes, thank you very much. Maganda kasi mag-shopping dyan sa customs eh. Kung minsan kung ano-ano mahahanap eh. Dati nakadali na rin kami ng mga delata, fresh food, and other things. So baka tignan ninyo yung mga bodega dyan ng impounded goods. Makadali lahat ng tao. Maraming salamat po. And thank you very much to General Jagger.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
I'll just respond to that, sir.
Yes, go ahead,
Yes,
Commissioner.
we appreciate the comments of the good senator. Ma'am, we have instructions from the no less than the secretary to conduct an inventory of all these items that need to be disposed, and those that can be donated are actually being donated. In fact, we have already donated rice, fish, canned goods, other items to agencies, even tents, PPEs, medical supplies in our fight against COVID. So we're doing this, ma'am, and thank you for the inputs and the suggestions. Maraming pong salamat.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Vice Chair Marcos. If there are no other questions from the body, I think we can let go of the budgets of the Department of Finance and the other attached agencies and favorably recommend their budget to the plenary. So thank you, Secretary. No more. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for seconding the motion, Vice Chair Marcos, Senator Nancy, and thank you again, Secretary Dominguez, and his undersecretaries and assistant secretaries, the DOF family, and the other agencies who are with us this morning. Salamat po, sirs. Thank you for your time and good luck in managing and helping get us out of this rut that we're in. Salamat po, sir, and thank you to our colleagues for attending.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chairpersons and Senators for your approval. Rest assured that our team will continue to meet or exceed your expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Appreciate that. Thank you, Vice Chair Amy, Senator Nancy. Salamat po for attending.
Thank
See you
you.
later. See you later during the plenary. Bye. Thank you, Comsec. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you to all our resource persons. You have a good day, sir. Sir, ma'am, ladies and gentlemen. We suspend the meeting now. Thank you.